Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I'm back with the third part of our epic four-part journey through space and time, but mostly to comic book stores, because this is all about the epic adventure my wife and I took on Free Comic Book Day, where we visited 3 comic book stores. Now, in part 1, we went to the Hall of Comics in Westboro, Mass. In part 2, we went to Crazy for Comics, but here we are. Part 3, the last part of our trip, we ended up at my LCS, a return visit to That's Entertainment in Worcester, Mass. And boy, howdy, did I get a bunch of stuff. First of all, they have my pull list there, and I haven't been to the store in several months, so I'm going to show you that. Some comics from Free Comic Book Day, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a minute. They had some dollar bins, which is unusual for them, but they brought them out for the special occasion, and I got some stuff out of those. Some stuff you're not going to be expecting. They had some indie creators like myself who are there for Free Comic Day. So I bought some indie self-published comics directly from the creators. And I got some back issues that were on sale. So man, I got a bunch of stuff. So let's start with the comic books. And we're going to start with the Free Comic Book Day aspect of things. Now, I mentioned this in a previous video, but they were basically out. We got there late in the day. We got there a little bit before, a little bit after 4 o'clock, right? And now we've done this before. We've been to their store on Free Comic Day multiple times. And last time we got there pretty late, and so instead of having like 40 things to choose from, they only had like 15, right? But this time, they said they started with 39 books, and they had so many people show up that even though they order tons of these books because they're the biggest store in the area, they were actually completely out of everything except for 6 of them. So normally they only allow you to take 5, but in this case, they said we could just take 1 of each of them because that was all that was left. So that's what we did. And would I have selected any of these if I had actual choices? Maybe. There's one that I might have chosen, but they're free, so we're just going to show them to you. Some of these we're going to pass them on to our nephews because they're children who may enjoy these more than me. But first of all, it's Loud House from Nickelodeon. Free Comic Book Day version of that. We've also got more kids stuff. It's Katie the Cat Sitter and Max Meow, When Pancakes Go Bad. So it's a split book. Well, like, Tales to Astonish. Here's one called Spidey and His Amazing Friends. So you can see the theme. These are all kids, targeting kids, which is interesting that this more adult stuff is all gone. But the stuff for kids, who are really who you want to have come in on Free Comic Book Day, I think, they still had some left. Then we've got Absolute Power, Special Edition number 1. Some sort of DC event book, looks like. And there's also a Marvel event book. It's Blood Hunt number 1, which has the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, and it says the X-Men. And then finally, here's the one that I might have actually picked for myself. It is for kids, but it's Encanto, which is a great movie that I recommend to everybody. So that's what we got for Free Comic Book Day. Again, not what I would have chosen had we gotten there earlier when there was still choice. But it is what it is, and it's always cool to get free comics. And like I said, we're going to pass these along to my nephews, and then also my brother-in-law has recently got into comics, so I may send him some of these as well. So he might enjoy those. Now, as part of Free Comic Book Day, they also had a whole room set up with creators, people that were artists doing free sketches and stuff like that, but they had some independent, self-published comic creators like myself, people that I actually know, because I've either met them before at shows or I've cross-promoted them on Kickstarter. So you may have heard me mention them before, or even seen other issues of their series, because I've shown some of them here before. So, first of all, here's Rocky Moon, number 5. So this is by Patrick Brigham, and I have met Patrick a couple times. He was at the table right next to me at the Haverhill Library Show last year, and then he also had a table at the Athol convention I did last year. So we've done a couple shows together, and I already have the first 4 issues, which I showed when I got them at Haverhill. But now he's got issue 5 out, so I'm looking forward to reading this. I really enjoy this comic. And then we also have here Bigby Grant, Private Eye. This is Fangs and Brimstone number 1. So this is like a noir. It's like a noir, but it's got some fantasy elements because the private detective is a mummy who's sort of come back to life, and you can see there's vampires involved, and I know that some of the other stories have werewolves. So it's like a gritty crime noir, but with, crossed with the Universal monsters sort of thing. So I had a chance to talk to the creator, Patrick Coyle, about this. And like me, his LCS is at Entertainment. But unlike me, he's actually been doing a number of appearances there. I just haven't had time to set up anything. But hopefully, if you're in the area, I'm going to talk to them about doing a signing down there, maybe starting to come to some of these events, because I'd love to do that. But Bixby Grant is a series that I've done some cross promotion with on Kickstarter. We've been live a couple times with my series Crime Busters. So I've talked to Patrick online before. This is the first time we've met in person. So I was really excited to be able to add this to my collection. At some point now, I think I've got more than one whole short box of indie self-published books that I've gotten either from local conventions or Kickstarter over the last 5 years. I may be getting close to even 2 boxes of that stuff. So at some point here, I should do a new long box archaeology where I go through all that stuff. Even though I've showed a lot of it as it was trickling in, it's different. It hits different when it's all at once, right? So I might do that at some point, but it's really cool to get these. Now, I also picked up my subscription, which I haven't done in several months. And let me just show you what we got here. First of all, we've got 3 issues of Alter Ego. And it is 185, 186, and 187. Now, it's hard to believe I've been buying Alter Ego this long, because my first issue I think was 106. So it's been a long time, and these are $11 each, so it's quite a commitment money-wise to keep buying these. But I really support the efforts of Roy Thomas in the comics as a comics historian. All the interviews with these Golden Age creators and Silver Age creators, and it's a huge resource. Unfortunately, a lot of them are no longer with us. So we're getting less and less interviews and more sort of interviews with family members and sort of, articles where there's research about someone's life. It's not quite the same as hearing from the source, but it's really important, I think, to the history of comics to document this stuff as much as possible. And it's really interesting to read all this stuff and learn all this stuff. So I always want to keep supporting Alter Ego. And the other thing I'm really excited for is Usagi Yojimbo. So it's been a while since I've been there. I know that there's been a couple like mini hiatuses where he's been working on other things, but we get Ice and Snow Part 3. This is issue 272, issue 273, issue 274, which is the last part of this storyline. And then the first part of the next storyline, The Crow, issue 275. So, very excited. We're getting close to 300 now. 275. Just 3 or 4 more years we'll be up to issue 300, which is going to be awesome. So, I recently did my Complete Run Madness videos where I showed off the complete run of Usagi Yojimbo up to 271, which is all I had at the time, but now we've got the next 4 issues as well. I urge everyone to go watch those because those are the least watched videos that I've ever done. But it's such a great series that everybody, I mean, the comic is a great series. I'm not saying it's a great series of videos from me, but it's a great series of comics and that everyone should read. So I'm really excited to read those. When I'm buying this much stuff, it's hard to actually read all of it. But there's a number of things here that I really can't wait to dig into. Now, I also bought some back issues. Let's just show off the highlight here. They were having a 20% off everything sale, and they have a lot of stuff. I felt like I already had this, actually, just from the cover, but they start to blend together a little. I'm getting close to finishing my complete run of Savage Sword of Conan. In fact, after I update my checklist, we might have a new quest starting because I think I'm down to around 10 issues left to finish the whole 235 issue series. But here's issue 10 of Savage Sword of Conan. 14 and 45. So there's 3 more issues of Savage Sword of Conan down. Earlier in this trip, I got an issue of Life with Archie. That's another series where I'm getting close to quest territory. I think I'm still missing about 13 or 14 issues of that. And the other thing that those have in common is that my organization is absolutely terrible. And so those issues, even though my checklist says that I'm close to having that run complete, I've got piles of stuff like in 9 different places around here that include those. So actually piecing the runs together once I have them all, just finding them around my office is going to be a nightmare. But getting close. I love Savage Sword of Conan. I have a lot of those that I haven't read. So similar to Conan the Barbarian from Marvel, where I have the complete run and I actually have only read about half of it. So when I finish this, I need to sit down and read them all. But finally, I got a bunch of dollar bin stuff. And what's interesting is I only got 1 comic out of the dollar bin, but they had a bunch of other dollar bin stuff. They had a huge table that was filled with like posters for $1, baseball cards for $1, like magazines for $1. They had comics for $1. They had like old publicity photos of celebrities from like the 70s and 80s. For some reason, those were $1 in the 90s even. But they also had trades. They had trade paperbacks, some of them used, some of them new, for $1, boxes and boxes. So when you have dollar trades, it's time to go digging because you might find some cool stuff. So here's something that's definitely used. It's beat up, but it was $1. And it is Doonesbury Deluxe, which is a selected, curated collection of the best Doonesbury strips. I was about to say for young people who don't know what Doonesbury is, and then I was going to explain Doonesbury, but let's be real. None of those people are watching this channel, so you all know about Doonesbury. So I'm not going to launch into that, but here's some of the other cool stuff that I got for $1 each. Here's something called Wild Stars, the Book of Circles. Now I've mentioned before, but my wife's family are indigenous people. So for my father-in-law, I've been putting together like run a scout, for instance. I always try and get cool native themed comics when I see them. So I don't know anything about this. I might read this before I send it to him because I want to make sure that it's like not crap. But just based on the cover for $1, and it's real thick. It doesn't actually have page numbers, but it feels like it's about 250 to 300 pages thick. So it's a hefty book for $1. Speaking of Savage Sword of Conan, here is Claw the Unconquered by Chuck Dixon. Now, I'm obviously not a fan of Chuck Dixon's politics. I don't want to get into politics, but I'm not a fan of Chuck Dixon. Having said that, I have read some of his Conan stuff from the 80s, and he's a good writer of this sort of thing. And so Claw of the Unconquered, which is basically DC's like Conan ripoff that they tried in the 70s, I think it would be interesting to see his take on that, especially for $1. We got a Batlash graphic novel written by Sergio Aragonés, the original creator of Batlash, called Guns and Roses. And I am a fan of Batlash. Again, just $1. This is relatively new. I mean, this is not a used copy. What I mean is that I'm trying to find the date on this. I actually didn't even realize, but this has art from John Severin. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's a Western, and the whole graphic novel is all John Severin art. And this was $1. Wow, this just jumped to the top of my list of things to check out, because John Severin is one of the absolute geniuses of comics. Totally underrated, amazing, amazing artist, like one of the greatest. So, yeah, that's fantastic. Speaking of all-time greats, I got this. It's Milton Caniff's Steve Canyon. This says 1947. So I'm guessing that different volumes were different years. But I haven't really read any Steve Canyon. So obviously I've heard of it. I've heard of Milt Caniff. I've mentioned in some of my previous videos that comic strips, classic comic strips, are not my strong point. Doonesbury I've read because it was still coming out, in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up. But this was before my time, so I thought for $1, this is a perfect jumping on point. Speaking of classic books, we've also got a reprint of Dan DeCarlo's Jetta series from Archie Comics. So that's exciting. And we've got J. Michael Straczynski's, and more from Archie here, sort of. It's DC, but it's J. Michael Straczynski's take on Archie's patriotic hero, the Shield. So there was a number of times when Archie is had to deal with the publishing rights for their superhero characters go to DC with mixed results. But I'm not a big fan of J. Michael Straczynski, but I am a fan of the Shield. So I'm always curious to see these sort of different adaptations. So I'm excited to check that out. So again, these trays were just $1 each. So in terms of dollar bin books, and again, that's crazy. Guys, that's nuts. $1 for this? Wow. So really excited with all those. And finally, I did get one actual dollar bin comic, actual comic book, super beat up, 20-cent Marvel though, out of $1 bin. And not just that, but a series that is not easy to find. I've never seen this comic before that I remember in person, and I just recently got the first issue. It's Gunslinger number 3. Now the first issue is called Tex Dawson Gunslinger, and the first issue has an awesome cover by Jim Steranko. This cover has credits to Romita and Trimpe, and I don't know whether it's I was about to say something dumb. Yeah, so it's John Romita with Herb Trimpe on inks. So it's still a cool cover. I love the semi-frames from this period. But again, Gunslinger is just not a series you see. So for $1, I was just thrilled to get this. So talk about a haul, huh? Look at all the stuff that I got on Free Comic Book Day from my comic store. And again, those trades, unbelievable that they're $1 each. But before I go, one last thing I need to tell you about. I teased this a couple videos ago. Actually, I've teased it a couple times. In the case, up front. Now, that's Entertainment. They're the biggest store in the area. They always have good stuff. I don't really think of them as a place where I expect to see Golden Age stuff. There is a store that I haven't been to yet because it's by appointment only, but at some point I'm going to have a video where I go to Super World. Now, that's a place where you expect it to be all Golden Age stuff, right? But, that's Entertainment. They usually have a lot of really good Silver Age, Bronze Age keys and tons of back issues, but I don't really expect them to have a lot of like mega keys or like Golden Age stuff. But they had both this time, all wrapped into one or two, because in the case they had a restored Detective Comics number 40. First appearance of Clayface. Some people claim it's the first Joker cover, although that's hotly debated. It's got Robin on the cover, and again, he just first appeared in issue 38. So this is like super early Robin, one of his first appearances. That blew me away to see that comic in person. Now it was restored. It was a big thing on the thing explaining the restoration. It comes with a certificate about the restoration. That was priced, I think, at I forget exactly, but I think it was $6,600. And that was amazing, but it, for me personally, was blown away by the book sitting right next to it in the case, which was cheaper, actually. I think it was like $5,800. It was an Action Comics number 23, which has the first Lois Lane cover and the first appearance of Lex Luthor. I've never seen that in person. I can promise you that. And I was gobsmacked. Like, that's a key book right there. Like, that's a comic book. That's the sort of thing where you just drool, worship. Like, I was blown away to see that. I'm a huge Lois Lane fan, but like, talk about your early like keys. That's like, you think of the Golden Age as being like World War World War II like books, right? It's like, oh, superheroes during World War II. But these were both pre-war books, right? These are both pre-war superhero books. And first Lex Luthor, first Lois Lane cover. There's some people that debate whether it's Lois Lane cover, but I think it is. It's debatable. It's debatable. It might be 29, but either way, like, what a book. Unbelievable. So I was just like, what a day of comics. I saw the Adventure Comics 44 at the first store we went to that had the Sandman cover that I was drooling over. And then to follow that up with Detective Comics 40 and Action Comics 23 right next to each other at That's Entertainment. Man, I don't know if they're still there at the time. By the time this is airing, I don't know if they're still there. But if you're in the area and you just want to look at some of the coolest comics you're ever going to see in your life, take a trip down to That's Entertainment, because you might be able to see them still. So, what an amazing trip. So much great stuff. I'm going to dig into all this amazing reading. I'd have one more video, though, from this trip, because I've showed you everything that I've gotten at these 3 stores, but I haven't shown you my wife's stuff. And my wife got a massive pile of stuff. So I'm going to do, first time I've done this, I'm going to do a whole video that's just all the stuff my wife got, including the first real back issue that she's bought. She usually buys all the trades and the new stuff, but she bought a back issue. So I'm really excited to show you this next time. But for now, let me know what you think of this amazing haul from That's Entertainment in Worcester down below, and I'll see you next time.